Hello, everyone. Good evening. Such a huge crowd. This is so awesome. My name is Erica Quintor, and I work in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions at UC Berkeley. I'm an assistant director there, and I'm also the territory manager for Santa Clara County, minus San Jose, just because there's so many schools in San Jose. Another colleague handles San Jose, but I'm really happy to be here to talk to you about the University of California system and tell you a little bit about our system and just kind of going, now I can't, sorry. Okay, here we go. So I'll be going over the UC system over, in general and talking about the application and then talking to you about freshman admission as well as transfer admission. I think it's important to talk about both. There are two pathways to come into the UC campus. And so I always try to highlight the transfer admission path as well. And just talk to you a little bit about finances surrounding the UC education, and then leave you with some resources and definitely answer your questions as much as I can generally. Of course, if you have specific Berkeley questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But again, I'm able to answer, general UC questions surrounding the information that I present on the slides. All right, so here is an awesome map of California with all of our different UC campuses. And just know that UC is one of the largest university systems in the world. They offer lots of undergrad and graduate programs all across the state. And many of our campuses have medical schools, not all of them, but here on the map, the ones that do would be UC Davis, UC Irvine, UCLA, UC San Diego, as well as UC San Francisco. San Francisco is not on here only because it's a campus where a student can't apply as a freshman or as a transfer student. So it's something that students pursue typically after pursuing or gaining their bachelor's degree. Then, of course, we have our campuses that have law schools. So Berkeley has a law school, Davis, UC Irvine, UCLA, and then in San Francisco, we have UC Hastings College of Law. We also have 3 national labs. Some of you may be aware of them. We have the Lawrence Berkeley Lab that's here local, Los Alamos Lab, and then of course the Lawrence Livermore Lab. And what I like to tell students, when they're looking at the UCs are really known for their research. And so if a student is interested in learning how to do research, conducting their own research, UC is awesome for that. I tell students that, when they're in classes, they're with experts in their field. So the UC campuses are really at the forefront of, new ideas and really pioneering efforts that lead to practical knowledge, right? To make, to benefit all of us, right? Not just here in California, but the world. And the UCs are also really known for public service. A lot of our students are dedicated to the public good. For example, at Berkeley, we have our own UC Public Service Center. And so that really is at the core of who we are. Just kind of speaking general, a lot of our campuses, we have shared programs. So for example, one opportunity that students can get involved in is the Education Abroad program, which is a system-wide program where students can study in over 40 different countries. Some countries, there's several universities that, like for example, Spain, there's many cities that students can study at. And the great thing for students that study in EAP is that the courses are vetted, so it can apply to their major or their university kind of general education. So that's great. And then we also have other programs that are available to all UC students. UC DC is one, UC Sacramento. So students can study in the nation's capital or go to the state capital here in Sacramento. And like I mentioned, there's tons of different, research opportunities at each of our campuses. So here, this slide kind of gives you a sense of who's at UC. And as you can see here, overwhelmingly, at our campuses, we have California residents, over 80%. We have students from over 180 different countries, and just about every US state is represented at one of our UC campuses. And about half of the students are either first generation or that lower part right there, a third are transfer students. And one statistic I want to give you is for fall 21, about 30% of our newly enrolled transfer students came from the California community colleges. So we do, while we accept students, transfer students from, everywhere, right? Other UCs, out of state, other four-year universities in California or outside of California, a lot of our students are coming from the California community college route. For example, at Berkeley, I would say, I don't know, like 94, 95% of our transfer students that we admit come from the California community colleges. So it's a great pathway. Choosing a campus. So that's sometimes difficult for students. I always tell students to think about what majors are offered at each campus. Of course, the location, the size of the campus, some of our campuses have really unique opportunities. So it is going to take some time to sort of research that, but think about what campuses offer their major choice. Some majors are only offered at some campuses. For example, at UC Davis, they have viticulture, the study of wine, that you're not going to find at maybe another UC campus. Majors might be called something different. So for example, at Berkeley, if a student's looking on the UC application, they'll find civil engineering. And at UC San Diego, that major is called structural engineering. So, it's going to take students, parents, if you could help guide them, or older siblings. I always tell students, check out the catalogs, check out if you're comparing the different departments. The websites are always a really great source of information. As far as like the size, if you're looking at our UC campuses, I would say, for example, those campuses that have over 30,000 students would be Berkeley, UC Davis, Irvine, LA, and San Diego. And then campuses that are a little bit smaller, in the 20,000 range or so, would be Riverside, Santa Barbara, a little bit more than that. And then Santa Cruz has anywhere from like 15 to 19,000. And then our smallest campus is Merced, that has less than 10,000 students. So we definitely vary, right? So let's take a look at our kind of freshman admissions and who's a freshman. And here on this slide, it kind of outlines who's a freshman student, who can apply as a freshman student. First year, we use them interchangeably, first year, or you might hear campus say freshman. If a student has not graduated from high school, no matter how many college courses they've taken, they must apply as a freshman. So even if they have a whole bunch of courses they took as a high school student at maybe a community college, they're still considered a freshman because they haven't graduated. And so a lot of times students get confused, because they're like, I have all these, transfer units, wouldn't I apply as a transfer? But they need to be applying as freshman students. With that being said, when they come to our campus, if they were admitted as a freshman, they're applying as a senior in high school, they're going to have their units awarded to them. Many students come in with a lot of college credit or AB credit, so they might end up with advanced standing, maybe even coming in as a sophomore or junior. So that's something that's kind of sometimes confusing for students when they're thinking about how they apply. So here's a timeline of our admission cycle. So August 1st, the UC application opens. It's open for 4 months, whether students are applying as freshmen or transfer students. So they have plenty of time to, craft their application, start it, come back to it. And the UC doesn't use letters of recommendation, interviews, or like portfolios unless required for admission by a specific major. So really the only way a student can present themselves is through the UC application. So that's their opportunity to really advocate for themselves. Some campus majors do require supplemental materials. For example, possibly nursing or maybe some fine arts majors at various campuses. At our campus, we only have 2 programs where we have a supplemental sort of application that a student would complete after they submit the application. And those 2 programs are global management in the Haas School of Business, as well as MET, which is our Management Entrepreneurship Technology program. which is a joint program from the Haas School of Business and the College of Engineering. So I tell students, speak with the campuses they're interested to get more information about these. The great thing is on the UC application, it'll indicate whether a supplemental application or additional materials are required. And then from there, October 1st through March 2nd is when students want to submit a free application for federal student aid or the California DREAM Act application. In the past, it was actually, you couldn't file it to January. So in these last few years, they've changed that deadline. So you can actually do it sooner. So the majority of our students do receive financial aid and scholarships. And, I'll cover that a little bit later in the presentation. And then October 1st through November 30th is when the student can actually file the application. This is major. For so many years, the student could only file the application in the month of November. So now we've given an additional month. And with that being said, families that are here, if you have a senior and please don't have them feel like they have to submit it October 1st. If they need a few more days, a few more weeks to submit a more complete application, we much rather students, take the time to submit it later, because as a reader, I have no idea if the student submitted it, October 20th or, November 15th. But the deadline remains November 30th. So that's going to be the absolute last day that you can submit the application. And then in March is when we release decisions to first-year freshman students. And that could happen throughout the month of March. I know for our campus, it tends to be later in March, but it's like one day and we release it to all of our students. There may be some campuses that release slightly earlier in February. So it will vary. And typically most campuses now, they'll kind of release students on their own portal. So students, once they submit their application, they're going to create like a portal for each individual UC campus. And then May 1st is a deadline for students to submit the statement of intent to register. And the students have to submit that by May 1st to decide which campus they're going to go to in the fall. And they can only accept an offer with one UC campus. So only one UC campus. And there are some campuses that utilize the waitlist option. We're a campus where we have been using the waitlist for a number of years. And so what that is, students are either offered admissions or they're not offered, or possibly they're offered the waitlist option. And so it's not automatic. Students do have to opt on to that waitlist. That happens earlier than May, but the reason I'm talking about it now is that it's important that if students do opt onto a waitlist for a UC campus, that they still submit a statement of intent to register at another UC campus, because it's very possible that we may not be able to accommodate the student off the waitlist. And when I say we, I mean other UC campuses. Let's see, and in July, so when the student submits the application, everything is self-reported. We don't want students to submit their transcripts. We don't want any of that just because it's too many, right? We have over 100,000 applications and we don't want to see all those transcripts. So we're only going to request the official transcript from those students that were admitted and who submitted their statement of intent to register by May 1st. So the official transcripts are actually not due until July 1st. And then if a student took AP or IB exams, they're due a little bit later in July 15th. Should I take questions right now or just at the end? I just noticed there's Q&A.
I'm going to be managing the Q&A.
Okay.
And some of these I'm going to save for you.
Okay.
Because there's very specifics, but I will be highlighting them for you at the end. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's look into the A through G requirements. This is for freshman students. So for some of you may be very, very familiar with these requirements. And so these are requirements that all the UCs require. So it's all the same. They're a specific pattern of college prep courses, also known as A through G pattern. And each letter stands for, subject area. So you can see them here, history/social science, 2 years, English is 4 years, math is 3 years, which includes geometry. Science is 2 years, language other than English is 2 years, visual and performing arts is 1 year, and then college prep elective is 1 year. So just note that these are minimum requirements. A lot of our applicants present a lot more courses than what is here. So in order to be competitive, we always encourage students to, take as many A through G courses in the subject areas that they're most interested in, and that's available to them. Every, public and private high school in California has like a UC approved course list that you can find online. And yeah, we just tell students to really take advantage of the curriculum that's available at their school, take courses that interest them, that challenge them. We do consider, the academic courses they've taken and the rigor of the courses as well. There's also a UC GPA requirement that we have. You can see it right here listed. It's also known as a scholarship requirement to be eligible. So for California residents, it's a minimum of a 3.0 and non-residents of a 3.4. And essentially we look at UC GPA in A through G courses. So this would exclude things like PE. Basically we're only looking at the A through G courses from the approved high school. Sometimes not everything's going to go in. There might be, a high school requirement that students have to take that we might not consider, but, the student needs to take it, right? Because they need to graduate. So we're looking again, 10th and 11th grade, anything the student, you can see it here, including the summers 9th through 11th. So that summer before 10th grade, that summer after 11th grade, that all gets wrapped up in the UC GPA. We don't consider plus or minus grades at the freshman level. Okay, so it's just an A is an A, it's 4 points, a B is 3 points, a C is 2 points, a D is 1 point. And so that's kind of how we kind of determine the GPA. And we do give additional points for those students that have taken AP or IB higher level, although I have seen some high schools that some of the SLs are considered, they get that additional point. Again, it depends on the high school. It's a little bit more rare. College level courses that students have taken will give the additional point if the grades were A, B, or C. And then some students have college courses. It's important that students report college courses as a college course. So in their educational history that they report it as De Anza College, Foothill College, US history, history 1, or, whatever the case may be, as one course. So it's one grade and they'll get 1 honors point for it. So it's not like, even though it's a full year credit, they're not going to get 2, but they're going to get the full year, credit. Yeah, and the only other thing I think there's another slide, so I'll talk about the pass, what we're doing with the pass, and I think it's the next slide. We used to have standardized test requirement, but the UCs have moved to being test-free. So the UC eliminated its standardized test requirements in 2020. So we no longer consider the SAT or the ACT scores when we make decisions or award, scholarships. So we essentially don't use it for any part of our process. We don't use it for the evaluation of the student, a holistic review, selection, any of that. Test scores, if they're submitted and they have them, later on, they could be used maybe for course placement, that sort of thing, fulfilling minimum requirements for eligibility. But other than that, we're not looking at them as a reader. We don't see the SAT or the ACT scores. We'll continue to accept for those students. I know they're not offered anymore, the SAT subject, but maybe a student took it way, way back. Subject test, AP test, IB test. So we'll kind of use that as value added in the review process. So these tests, again, are not required, but they can be submitted to demonstrate kind of mastery in that subject area, advanced proficiency. So again, we don't require the AP test or IB test, but we certainly can, consider them when we're reviewing students. All right, so there were a few changes for COVID-19, and this may apply for, some students, with COVID, a lot of high schools, they moved to, it was just overwhelming period for everyone. And so many schools went through pass credit, grades instead of getting letter grades, we will accept them for the period that you see here. They can count for A through G, pass or credit grades and repeated courses. Like, for example, if you got a D or F, and they then got a pass, we will consider it, but students need to, report both grades. A pass grade, we're going to assume that, represents achievement of at least a C- or higher. But we're not calculated into the GPA, right? Because we can't. A pass doesn't, we can't assign it a letter grade. Yeah, so not factored into GPA calculation or anything like that. UC approved honors or designated AP or IB or UC transferable college courses in which a pass was received. They won't get an extra point in the GPA calculation, but we will include it as like an honors course, right? In the honors tally. So it is going to demonstrate that the student had rigor in the curriculum. So it's still, wonderful that the student got a pass and they got it in AP Spanish or, AP history. Hope that made sense. All right, so we're also looking at activities and awards. So it's not just the academics, but the non-academics. As you all can imagine, many campuses have way more, qualified applicants than we're able to accommodate. So in those certain, situations, we apply standards that are more kind of demanding than the minimum requirement. So in the previous slide, if you count up those 15-year-long courses, 30 semester, many of our students, exceed that requirement. So those are things that we're looking at. But when we have more applicants, we use a process called comprehensive review, and we're looking at multiple factors to kind of evaluate applicants' academic achievements. So we take into account many different things. UC can be competitive, but we love to see students that are strong inside as well as outside the classroom. So these are some of the bullet points, things that we consider. Educational prep programs can be many things. They could be, AVID programs, so many, they can be non-school related. Sometimes students do like summer programs that they choose to highlight what they've been doing, whether it's a science program, a leadership program. So we really encourage students to think beyond what they're doing at school and thinking about also their responsibilities at home, if that's applicable. Activities and awards do not have to be affiliated with the school. So we see students with, doing activities outside. They could be a faith-based community service. We even consider part-time employment. Many of our students work home responsibilities. So it's important that students communicate on the UC application, not only their activities and awards, but the context as well. Maybe they're not able to participate in school or community activities or because they work or, any kind of explanation is very helpful for us to kind of understand. So all these activities have potential to kind of add value, and we really don't care what the activity is. Students are amazing. They're doing so many extracurriculars, and they can demonstrate excellence in so many ways. Some students are really into robotics or sports or government or community theater, and we love to see all of that. On the application, logistically, students will have space for about 20 spaces to enter their activities. And they're kind of categorized. There's different categories. Not all 20 entries have to be from the same category. There's going to be some students that don't have work experience or they don't have any honors or awards. Just have the students do the best they can to categorize activities in a way that sort of makes sense. So there is some flexibility. But I can't emphasize enough that students really need to spend not just the time on the PIQs, but this section, how the students write about themselves is really important. And thinking about if they're writing an activity, really thinking about what their impact was in that activity. Maybe they were a volunteer at the library for 2 years, and maybe that second year they pitched an idea, an activity to the librarian, and they let them go with it. We really want to see the impact that they're doing in each of the activities. We're looking closely at the time commitment, how many hours, how many weeks they do it. We're looking at that as well. Other tips, kind of avoid using acronyms because we may not know what that acronym is for maybe an award or a club. And again, explain the level of involvement as well. So the PIQs, this is something that is part of the UC application. They're called personal insight questions. And the responses to the PIQs are an important part of the admissions review process. And there's choice, there's 8 questions. And so freshmen can actually select 4 out of the 8. We really don't care which ones they pick. We don't weight, one question over another. Transfer students, they have a little bit of choice. One is mandatory, and there's a question unique to them that's about their major and their preparation and interest. But then from there, they get to pick 3 additional questions. So this is really a chance for campuses for students to let us know what circumstances, experiences shaped their academic and personal experiences. It's a great place to present any opportunities, achievements, obstacles, any special circumstances. And it's just a really great way for a student to showcase, any special talents or leadership. Maybe they listed a leadership in one part of the application and they want to expand on it. It's a great way to showcase their initiative, their, curiosity, if they're taking on projects, academic projects, and what have you. But so they really should select the 4 that they feel the strongest about. There is a word limit, so there's about 350 words for each. And we're really trying to understand, why students pursued certain activities and kind of the why, what the student learned by pursuing, if it's an activity, how can they apply what they learned to maybe another aspect of their life. There is an additional comment section too, as part of the PIQ. So if they didn't have an opportunity to discuss something elsewhere in the application, they could put it there. But it shouldn't be like an additional essay, right? That they, a fifth question that they respond on, but maybe some additional information they feel is important for us to know. I do want to say, if there's any students, I'm sure there's students here, is many of the campuses are doing virtual PIQ sessions. I know UC Santa Barbara has this wonderful whole videos on different topics that might be helpful. I know we're going to put some out. We do have a virtual library, and we do have a recorded personal insight question that kind of goes over each of the questions that might be helpful. So what you see here is we continue to have a statewide guarantee. It's called the statewide guarantee, and it's essentially what it is UC is committed to ensuring enrollment opportunities for all California high school graduates. So the statewide index identifies California residents that are in the top 9% in their California high school graduates, and we'll offer a guaranteed space at a UC campus if space available. I'll definitely put the link if you want to learn more kind of the details regarding this. Students don't have to do anything, extra, but it does discuss what we're looking at for the A3G courses in high school, calculated UC GPA. Another program is the Eligibility in Local Context, also known as ELC. And this program ensures that, talented, California residents from all over the state have an opportunity to join the UC. So ELC status adds value to the application, and it's one of the factors that can be considered when applications are reviewed. ELC students are not admitted to any of their campus choices, but they can be offered a spot at a UC campus if space available. And so again, student doesn't have to do anything. As an applicant, the application is automatically screened for ELC eligibility when they apply. There's no extra paperwork. And essentially, after they submit their application, they can go back to their UC application page to see whether or not they've been designated as the top 9% in their class. And on this slide here, you can see how students are eligible for that. And again, I could provide the link at the very end in the chat to go over that. One thing, what's the difference between requirements and selection? I think I alluded to this earlier. All the campuses receive more applicants than we could possibly admit. So the applicant pool for each campus is different. And, the selection of students is kind of outlined to the campus by the regent's policy. So how campus select students really will vary, and they're looking at multiple factors. And we're considering the context of the school, the overall applicant pool to the campus. So again, on the top here, you can see the requirements, what I went over, the A through G, GPA, same for all the campuses. But the UC, and I'll give you the link, or it's actually in the resources, we're all, while it's one UC application, students can be admitted to one campus versus another. So each campus does the individual review for the applicants, and they're going to identify the most competitive campus in their applicant pool. And we're looking at these 13 comprehensive review factors to select the students. So the comprehensive review, these are some factors that we're looking at. It's not a checklist. It doesn't list all the factors, but it's just intended, we put it up just to show that we're really looking at the whole context of the student, what they're doing inside and outside. We're looking for, well-qualified students that really take advantage of educational opportunities that are presented to the student, while in school or maybe outside the school. So these factors, again, they're like GPA, the courses the student completed, we're looking at honors courses, honors AP, the rigor, ELC, if they're top 9%. The senior year program, you'll notice I didn't talk about that in the GPA. So while we don't look at the senior GPA, just because we just get so many applicants, it's hard for us to go back and say, hey, give us your senior year grades. But we are looking closely at the quality of their senior year and seeing if the students continuing that rigor. The senior year grades are more important to keep a student's admission. So if they're admitted, there are some requirements that students have to fulfill, usually like no D's or F's, 3.0 GPA. But anyways, for the 13 comprehensive review, they also include, like I said, the quality of senior year program, academic opportunities students took advantage of at their high school, kind of performance in their academic subject areas. Sometimes students engage in special projects. We even look at improvement in academic performance. So we are looking at grade trends, any special talents a student has, achievements, awards, ed prep programs, and just, they're just academic accomplishment within their life experiences. So as you can see, many different factors, and we're really looking to the PIQs, we're looking to the activity section to help us learn a little bit more about the students. Let me look at the time here. I'm going to speed it up here. For transfer admissions, again, a super important pathway to enter the UC as well. For the UC, a transfer applicant is basically a student who's enrolled at a college or university after high school graduation in a regular term. So regular terms like fall, winter, or spring. So a student, for example, couldn't, attend maybe San Francisco State for one term and say, oh, I want to apply for a freshman. They have to now at that point apply as a transfer and meet transfer requirements. So like I said earlier, we really do welcome students from all institutions around the world, but we really do give priority and consideration to California community college students that are applying for admission to the UC as junior students. These are minimum junior level transfer requirements. So for GPA 2.4 California residents, 2.89 non-residents. The pink box or circle here, most campuses are looking for junior level students, 60 semester / 90 quarter UC transferable units. There may be some campuses or even a few programs, they may accept students below that. So it's important that students check, but for the most part, most of the campuses are looking at junior level. And then of course there's minimum course pattern that we're looking for. And that 7 course includes things like year 2 English, math, and then 4 courses from at least 2 of the different subject areas of arts, humanities, social behavioral science, physical and biological sciences. That GPA, again, it's really important students talk to different individual campuses. There are some campuses that have a higher GPA. So at UC Berkeley, our minimum to be competitive and to review students is a 3.0, 3.5 if a student's considering engineering at the transfer level. What do we consider when we're selecting students at the transfer level? is major prep. So, there's a wonderful website called assist.org that tells students if they're, for example, at a California community college, which are the requirements for, say, psychology or civil engineering or something like that. So many of the majors are highly selective. So it could be that students have, above, like I said, above a 3.0. Again, it depends on the program. And then IGETC, which is, this is like kind of getting into the weeds. It's kind of an educational pattern that a lot of students pursue at the community college. It's not required for admissions, so that's important that students know. However, some campuses may encourage students to complete IGETC certification prior to their enrollment at UC enrollment, because that can kind of count for their lower division general education requirements. So if there are students here that are seniors that are thinking about transferring, really important you talk to a community college, if you're going the transfer route through California Community Colleges, that you talk to a counselor, get on a plan to transfer. Many of the UCs make one-on-one appointments. They have transfer fairs, so it's important to check in with individual UC campuses so that you're competitive when it comes time to apply. The UC also has transfer admissions guarantee programs called TAG. So it is a guarantee admissions to a campus and a major, as long as deadlines and requirements are met. So the TAG is only open to California community college students. And there's other requirements that you can see here. So that's a great opportunity for students that want to maybe get a guarantee at UC Davis or UC Santa Barbara. There's certain requirements here. For example, you have to have a certain amount of transferable units by a certain date, complete the 60 UC transferable requirements the end of the spring prior to transfer. The UCE refers to English and the math. And again, that GPA is going to vary because maybe Davis will say, well, if you want this major, you have to have these requirements in this GPA depending on the major. So it's a great opportunity for students. Not all campuses have a tag. So currently Berkeley, UCLA, and UC San Diego do not have a tag program. They're not binding, so students can tag with one, say, UC Santa Barbara, and of course still apply broadly to the different UCs. It's not progressing here. Oh, there we go. This, if you wanted to, take a picture of that link, this is a great tool. It's called the Transfer Admissions Planner, also known as TAP. And it's a great way to kind of plan out your coursework. A lot of times, some UC reps will say, hey, do a TAP planner, and they can see the courses that the student is in and kind of advise them. And another advantage of TAP is that once a student's ready to apply and transfer to a UC, they can upload their information to the UC application. There's many benefits. You can track your progress. You can indicate your interest in certain UC programs. Through the TAP, you can apply to the Transfer Admissions Guarantee Program, and also get communications from various UCs. Like I mentioned, it goes into the UC application. Finally, I want to make sure we get to your questions. Just going to go over a little bit about tuition and kind of financial aid and cost of a UC education. This is new, where we're having a stability plan. So the University of California, like the Board of Regents, approved this cohort model for determining tuition for students entering fall 2022 and beyond. So this policy is called the Tuition Stability Plan. And so it really benefits students. What essentially it does is it's for all undergrad students, and it basically sets the tuition. So starting in fall 2022, a student's tuition will be based on the academic year that they started. So whenever they first enrolled at the UC. And what this does is students can expect that their tuition will remain flat for up to 6 years. And after that point, if a student continues to be enrolled, they'll be assessed at the oldest kind of unexpired UC tuition rate. So this is helpful because it makes tuition predictable, allowing, families to plan for cost. And yeah, so we're really excited that this got passed. So here's just kind of the cost of attendance. Here, this is average. It's pretty similar across UCs, but some UC campuses, maybe housing will be a little bit more than others, but this is just kind of an average. Depending, the actual cost will vary because personal expenses, right, it could vary from student to student. Yeah, so and obviously the type of room, if a single room versus a triple, that's going to vary. If a student doesn't bring a car, transportation costs will be a little bit different. If a student is covered by their family health insurance, everyone's required to purchase the health insurance unless their family provides that maybe through a work plan. There's lots of money in grants and scholarships. One big program is a UC Blue and Gold. That's really targeted for family incomes that are like 80,000 or less, and that will ensure that your students' tuitions will be paid. And I'll give a link regarding the Blue and Gold Opportunity Program for incomes of 80,000 or less. Over 70% of California undergrads receive grants and scholarships, and the average award, is it on here, is 18,000. And then 56% of currently of our undergrads, California undergrads, let me specify that, pay no tuition because of the grants and scholarships that they receive. And then this is regarding the middle class scholarship. So there's a few changes that happened to the California Middle Class Scholarship Program. So for 22-23, the income and asset cap was like 201,000. So award amounts will be based on the total cost of attendance minus the sum of other available gift, a student contribution and, from part-time, maybe work earnings. And there will be a parent contribution for dependents with a household income of over 100,000. We're still kind of getting more information. We're waiting for the California Student Aid Commission to give us more details about how awards will be assessed. So it's called MCS, Middle Class Scholarship 2.0. 49% of California undergrads complete their degree with no student loan debt. And yeah, and for those students, I think it's on there. Is it on there? For those students who do opt to take out student loans, they borrow 25% less than the national average. Oh, it is on there. So you can see the national average. And I have a few resources if you want to take a picture of this. And so this is from the University of California website. So it does the links there where it says selection process for freshmen and transfer. You can see those comprehensive review factors. You can kind of play around. There's different profiles, a lot of really, really good information. I think they'll be helpful for families. And then if you're applying this year, there's, application procedures and all of that. They also have, for those students that haven't started their PIQs, there is like a sheet that kind of helps students figure out, how do I approach these PIQs that I think are helpful. I think there's some videos on there as well. And transfer prep websites as well, if you want to take a picture of that by the various UC campuses. And this, you could just go on, they're just different admissions contexts. Sometimes you can get, you could see their different programs that they're having this fall. So I think that's it.
I'm taking screenshots of these as well, so we can share them with parents too. So I have them as well. Thank you, Erica. Yeah.
Okay. All right.